We're not doing flipper loans or construction loans. We're doing performing cash flowing assets with loan to values, not loan to after repaired or loan to completed value, but loan to actual today value today, closer to 50, 60, 65%, which is in recession resilient markets, which even in the global financial crisis, most markets didn't drop that low. It's really hard to lose money. And because banks are pulling back, we're in a really strong position to be able to fill that void of performing assets just needing reliable and trustworthy debt partners.
Welcome to the Cashflow Fight Club podcast. In the Champions Corner edition, I'm Mike Deaton, and together with Lydia, my co-host in life, business, and this podcast, we're taking you into the training room, deep in the dojo, sharing the secrets of what it takes to forge a champion. We're digging deep into mindset mastery, high performance habits, best-in-class behaviors, and bringing you the tips and techniques that maximize human potential, brought to you from some of the best in the business.
So grab your buds and your seat, hit subscribe, and get ready to up your game. Let's do the show.
Let's do it. Today, we welcome a repeat guest from the world of real estate and real estate investing. Fresh off of his matchup from a previous episode on the Cashflow Fight Club podcast, where he represented commercial real estate, please welcome Patrick Grimes.
Patrick has a fascinating story, and anyone that is interested in real estate or investing is sure to come away with important takeaways.
In this episode, we cover the importance of getting a broader perspective on the world and how travel can help with that, taking away key learnings when hard times hit, like the 2008 Great Recession that wiped out a lot of real estate starts, how to go about finding the right partners, and how to scale your real estate investing empire.
Patrick shares a wealth of knowledge here in the Champions Corner, so let's not wait any longer and get ready right into the arena.
All right, Patrick Grimes, thanks for coming on the show again. We're excited to dive into your experience and background and some of your best-in-class behaviors.
Well, I had a really great time getting beat up pretty bad on the last episode. I was on with you with Buddy Bronson, so looking forward to this one.
Right on.
Well, on this one, you're going to be the champion. So
okay. All right. Well, that's good news. That's great news.
Yeah.
Well, for any who haven't checked you out on the first episode, give us a brief intro about you and your background and what got you into the worlds of automation as well as real estate.
Yeah. So I came from, pretty nerd background. I'm geek. I'm an engineer in heart, and I stepped true to that. Machine design, automation, robotics, and mechanical engineer. Did all kinds of fun things in corporate America. Worked for Tesla. Did some robotic assembly of their motors. Did some stuff with Lockheed satellites and COVID test kits and all kinds of medical device and a lot of really cool, one of a kind adventures, products, gizmos and gadgets, and work with some of the smartest people that I've ever met. And what was common theme was, where are you investing? And mostly it was, if it was just their 401ks or their stock in their startup or even their Facebook or Apple or Google, and hoping for something big. If they were really exotic, maybe they had a rental, but nobody really knew how to invest. I early on, actually the first engineering design firm I worked for, the owner told me that I should focus in real estate and invest everything in real estate as much as I can, as soon as I can. And I was like, wow, that's interesting, because he was a founder of, he was like a mentor of mine, of really successful automation and robotics firm. And I was like, interesting. So and he had all this money in real estate, and his only regret was not doing more sooner. And so, and I got really eager then and started researching, and I invested a lot into a pre-development, really speculative. I was trying to double, triple my money, young and eager, naive, and personally guaranteed, way over leveraged. And then the global financial crisis happened, right? The subprime. And so I lost everything back when I was a, snot-nosed engineer, and I, I was raked over the coals, drugged to the gutter for a number of years. Lost the property. It was fully recourse. They came after me, negotiated debt forgiveness, and then the government actually 1099 me for the forgiven debt, which people don't realize how risky even residential can be when you personally guarantee things, right? So I learned a lot. Still very successful engineer. I proceeded, kind of dove back into that, got a master's in engineering and business, and started pulling in substantial income again. So it wasn't long before I was trying to figure out where to diversify. And so, unfortunately, or fortunately, the breadcrumbs of the wealthy led me right back to real estate. But very different. Be the tortoise, not the hare, by existing cash flowing assets with low loans, loan down payment or big down payments, low loan to values, and make a measurable, calculated improvement to an existing asset instead of trying to double or triple my money, and to do it in better places, to do it in recession resilient areas. And so I did, kind of followed that, got single family, and then scaled to multi. We've done some energy, and we have a debt fund now we're doing in as well, and got a bunch of really cool acquisitions funds. And passive investing mastery now is our what we're focusing on, and really just helping give back to those same people that I used to work with, those high tech professionals that really don't know what to do, don't know how to passively invest. All they know is their IRA and 401k, and maybe a rental, or maybe they glamorized, on TV to become like the next flipper, right? And they don't realize how risky it is. You can lose everything. So I try, and that's why we have our mastery series to really help educate how to get involved and be smart about it, and diversify into alternative investments.
It's a great story, and one that we hear from several people in terms of those that got interested in real estate, invested in the 2000s, and just hit the Great Recession of 08, 09. And even like, Rod Cleef, big multifamily guy, I mean, he says the same thing. He had a huge single family empire and he was invincible at the time. And then, all that came crashing down. And I really appreciate the learnings that you've taken from all of that, just in terms of recourse versus non-recourse, leverage ratios in terms of, capital versus loan, and asset classes and markets and all that. Yeah, I mean, all these, they're painful, but if you're taking away the learning and becoming a better investor and a better steward, they're invaluable lessons a lot of times. And even right now, I think we go through a bit of that with interest rates. A lot of people taking variable rate debt and over levering and thinking multifamily is I think a few years ago, the mantra was, recession resistant. And okay, maybe we didn't go through an exact recession, but we went through some economic turmoil, and a lot of these loans are now getting into trouble. And exactly where it's led you, right, to be capitalizing on that and taking advantage of some distress in the market, and in a very responsible way, or at least, I guess it remains to be seen, but at least what seems like the responsible way at this point. I'd love to rewind a little bit. Have you, as a boy or a pre-university guy, were you always? You seem like a creator. Like, I've known several MEs or mechanical engineers throughout my career, because I kind of grew up in the engineering world as well, and they're very creatively minded in terms of. I mean, you have this capacity to visualize and conceptualize and be able to work in multiple dimensions and create solutions and stuff. Was that something that just came natural to you as a boy, and your interest peaked to take you into university?
Yes. So I was raised up in the mountains, actually. So, well, my dad was in the Air Force. I was born in Italy, but we bounced around. My formative years were just on the south side of Yosemite National Park. So we didn't have TV. We had we had bunny ears with fuzzy channel 8 and 11. All there really was like Matlock and Murder She Wrote. So it really wasn't anything we wanted to watch on TV. So I was in there tinkering. I was taking apart VCRs. I don't know if you know what those are, but big clunky things, right? Blockbuster, right? I was taking apart VCRs, playing with Legos, and I was a little Dilbert kid, playing, making electric circuits, and making little inventions and doing all kinds of stuff just as a little boy. And so even by the time I got into high school, I kind of was picked up by Seattle Internet, which was the monopolizing ISP back when there used to be a bunch of little ISPs and internet service providers. And I was hired by the high school to create their webpage. And then when I went to college, I kind of went to computer engineering originally, but it was that mechatronics and robotics which got me. So I quickly gravitated, and I created. We even invented an invention, me and my partner, called the Grill-O-Mation. It attaches to any home barbecue, and you can put a steak on it, and it measures temperature over time and flips the steak over until it's done, and you just tell it how
Incredible.
thick the steak
Wow.
is and how done you want it. And we actually, it was patentable, but I was immediately swooped up by a design firm, and I just kind of was lost in all these cool things. So as a very young guy, I was actually, we also did a bunch of outdoorsy stuff. We rock climbed, and we went sailing, and and that stuck with me too. I backpack. I mean, I've done the John Muir Trail with my dad, 240 miles, whitewater after the Grand Canyon, 200 some mile, 198 miles. I've hiked the base camp of Everest and Fuji, mountaineered Shasta. I've been through the sacred mountains of China. Done a lot of stuff. Done three 14ers in Colorado. So mountainy slash engineer geek, kind of combined. Turned real estate investor, I guess. So yeah, that's kind of hopefully that stitches it together a little bit.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Definitely, I love the way that you've carried that through into adulthood. It's something we're trying to circle back to as well. Just living here in the mountains and getting out as much as we can.
Sure.
I'm jealous from some of your travels here. I'm taking notes on some of my bucket list. We actually did the John Muir Trail 2015 or 16, I think.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome. Oh man, there are so few people that I meet which can have taken the time to actually get out there, and that is just God's country. It's hard to fathom how beautiful it is, and it's almost impossible to explain, right? And that just you can be 8 or 9 days out in the middle of nowhere, right? Uh, and then run across your cash that you mailed ahead, and just like, okay, this is what I got for the next 6 or 7 days, right? Yeah, so
Squeeze it
cool.
all into your bear canister and move on. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
obviously, we met a lot of PCT, hikers, and
Yeah.
we understood then while hiking, on the John Muir Trail, why they like to be there for months at a time, because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, and they're going the opposite. I don't know if you were like me, but they were going the opposite
No,
direction.
we went south to north.
Oh, you went
we went
south
south
to
to
yeah, so you went with the PCTers. Man, those PCTers were like the equivalent of passing people on the trail freeway. They were because they're like scampering up north, right? So we were really only able to chat when we hunkered down for the night nearby it. But good for them. That is an amazing hike all over Mexico to
That's a
Canada.
feat. Yeah, months of all of that, and just incredible.
So for any listeners, we highly recommend John Muir Trail.
Oh man,
Highly recommend.
yeah. And if you carve out
Yeah.
one thing to do, make sure it's that. Second thing, whitewater raft the Grand Canyon.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
We also we're really drifting into a different podcast episode here, but
Right.
we also did 7 days on the Salmon River in Idaho, whitewater rafting, and that was equally as memorable and impactful in our lives. I mean, anytime you can get out, unplug, no cell reception or anything, it takes a day or two usually to acclimate and get your mindset in that place, and where you're not reaching down into your pocket to feel if, hey, is my phone buzzing? But it's it's just incredible. I mean, really, it's grounding. Just really centers you on. If you're in the mountains, which we love,
Absolutely.
How insignificant and small we all are relative to these mountains that have been there for millions of years. Whitewater rafting is similar. Just, you're at the mercy of flowing water and nature as it comes, and just able to appreciate it all. So yeah, I mean, I would say any type of adventure travel like that, where you can unplug for a few days, especially in today's world, is just an invaluable opportunity, and one we encourage to take. I mean, obviously you have to have the aptitude for it. Some of these require some level of fitness, I suppose, especially if you're doing a through hike or something like that. But yeah, amazing adventures. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible. Hmm.
we'll have to think about like a real estate mastermind adventure trip or something.
I'd love that. I've also
Maybe that'd be miserable.
I did.
Talk.
Yeah, no, I mean that should be it. I mean, I traveled because part of real estate is, a lot of people are in their professional journey and seeing something more, seeing something greater, and they venture into real estate. Well, a lot of those have done that in other ways. Like I disappeared for two times. I disappeared for a year. One time I traveled through Europe together, just kind of on my own after undergraduate, and then after graduate school, I traveled to the Middle East and Asia. And I did temples and mosques and went to Jerusalem, stayed there, and I did all kinds of stuff and I lots of good stories. We should definitely put that group together because you find a lot of very interesting stories when you kind of get into these entrepreneurial types, right? Like we are.
Yeah, I similarly, and I know Lydia shares this as well, but it almost it falls maybe just short of. I think experiences like that ought to almost be mandated. There's so many of us that stay in our town or city or bubble, and it is so invaluable to get out and experience different places, different cultures, meet other people. I mean, aside from the personal growth that comes from it, it carries over into business and really opens your mind and your mindset to what can be and the important things in life as well. I mean, profits and dollars and cents we're all chasing, and it's a requirement to live. But there's much more to life than just that. And stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'd be interested. Do you feel that in some way has that's probably an obvious question. In what ways do you think maybe that's impacted your professional life, your early days of travel and taking those years off and in that way? Is there kind of particular things you can maybe point to or think through?
Well, entrepreneurship, there's lots of books you could read where it's kind of opposite to how our genetics are built. Our genetics are built to huddle together with the pack, right? And those that venture on their own out of that pack, and if they don't have any other people surrounding them, which is why masterminds and different kinds of coaching programs are so profitable and successful for some. It's because it's hard for people to just kind of venture out. And when I was in college, people were like, "Oh, you're going to go travel for a year after undergrad? Are you worried about the gap?" I'm like, "No, I'm worried about missing the chance to go travel." And there was so much pressure from professors and from my peers about potentially the career damage from taking a gap. Man, I put it right on my resume, traveled the world. And every single interview I ever had, that was the coolest thing. I was like the coolest guy in the room because they saw that all they wanted to hear about was things that I did. And I did it again after my master's degree, and it was the same kind of pressure. What are you going to do? You got to take this. You got to go immediately, go use it. You got to show it. And I'm like, okay, I'll be see you in a year, right? And I left my job and I came back, and the pressures that are being placed to not do that, and I completely agree. Aussies and Kiwis, they have kind of built into their culture go travel for a year, and you see them. They're all over the world, and they have the Commonwealth, which allows them to go to places like England and kind of jump around Canada and kind of jump around, and so they have kind of that built in. Pretty cool, really really neat. I think everybody should give that a shot.
Yeah, I fully agree. It is. We have two adult daughters and have watched them both plunge headfirst into graduation, get a job, and before long, like one's been out of school for a few years, the other is just a few credits away, but both of them, life is already consumed them, like bills, payments, obligations, we can talk about even taking a long weekend, and it's painful for them. Like, we can't come visit. Got to work. It's just like, man, exactly to your point. The greater risk is the opportunity lost
Right.
because you get plugged in than the 12 months on your resume where somebody says, oh my gosh, you've not been in the workforce for, your education's irrelevant now. I mean, that's just not going to happen. So, that's much respect that you kind of went against the grain and went about doing that and
you got to remind yourself, right? You got to remind yourself constantly too, because sometimes things get hard. Like right now, economy's hard. But my wife and I just keep reminding. Well, we did spend 4.5 months in Hawaii last year. Well, actually, we were there for almost 2 years during COVID too, and we're gonna go back again this year. I mean, so it's like, the reality is, in the grand scheme of things, we fought to get the freedom, and you got to take those opportunities. And anyways, so this was a real
most
estate
definitely.
podcast, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm getting there. So you were sparked by an employer who, and observing other, I guess, some other wealthy people. How did you go about it the first time when you decided to get into real estate and you did more, let's just say the recourse model of single family homes, or maybe there were some small rentals or something? Was that just, as most people do, using your salary and acquiring properties as you could pull away excess capital to invest and stacking up rentals over time? Or what was that process like?
And so I graduated. I went travel for a year, came back. I then started building up over the course of another year. So it was like 2 years after I graduated when I had enough to invest in something. My search was to find, and I did find developers. I looked at appreciating regions of the country, and I looked at what I thought was like a rock solid business plan to just double and triple my money. And that was kind of rewinding to pre-development. That was like, okay, here's some land, let's get this plotted out and entitled, and let's build on it, and let's rent or sell this thing. And there's a huge bridge. Unfortunately the bridge is made of wood, and economy can spark a match at any time. And so and then when you're still carrying the weight, even if the bridge falls out, and then you're drowning. And that's essentially what happened to me. But I found what I thought was just, Asheville, North Carolina, just with amazing and suburb area that was in a mountain. And in my decks, when I present live, I always show a picture of the plot with like the half baked development. So it's just, because it looked just perfect, and the developer had like 4 perfect track records, and so it just, the economy. And so I leveraged as high as I could, first, second, balloon payment, and I escrowed payments, and then when that ran out, I paid out of pocket. But I thought what I was doing was really solid. I just didn't realize I was speculating. I wasn't investing, right? And I was hoping that on the other side of this, I would have something that could be sold. Nothing could be, and I was speculating on land, dumping a bunch of money, getting really underneath it. The value wasn't there. You think about when you do a construction project or even a flip, you're buying land that's worth, if it's a residential, it's worth maybe 20 or 30 grand. Then you're getting a loan for like another 50 or 60 grand, hoping you can create and build and create value above that 150 grand to pull a profit on the back other side, right? So you're like, loan to value is like 300% loan to value, and so you're really underneath and underneath and underneath and hoping to catch up. And so that's what the speculation was. And I didn't know that's what I was doing at the time. And I didn't know that the risk is that it all falls apart. And when you say the recourse model, they come after you and your personal assets, essentially, right? And so that's what kind of led me. It was embarrassing, and I ventured out into the wilderness kind of on my own, like some people, kind of chipping in here or there. And and I came back with my tail between my legs. So and so it took me a few years to recover. But then when I approached it back again, I was looking at recession resilient markets like Houston. In fact, I showed the same graphs from the Fred data showing that even in the global financial crisis, Houston only really leveled off for about 2 or 3 years before it started going up again. And some other markets like Orlando, Phoenix, LA, San Jose, New York it took some of them 6 years, like Phoenix and Orlando took like 13 years, right, just to break even. But if you find, as we talked about, recession resilient markets where you have diversified employment, not heavily weighted in hospitality, but a combination of healthcare and finance and logistics, things that are hard to move, right? Not just the high tech, or just not just the Disney World, or not just the TV manufacturing that was going on in Phoenix at the time, and that could just be overnight shuttled over to Mexico, which and same thing with solar cells. All that stuff just vaporized overnight. So, and then you get a lot of those different resilient markets. And you put them all in one spot, and then you couple that with tax advantage, landlord friendly, business friendly laws, and low cost of living. You got jobs and people moving there, and you've got, even in a down economy, they'll have some lift to help level it out. And so that's why I started just buying from California, started buying in Houston. And I was moonlighting it, and I was just knocking them out, and it was working. That was the problem. It was working, but it was just busting my ass, and I was struggling. And it wasn't until I met my wife that I was like, she saw that I was just killing myself, and I told her I can't do it anymore. So she was there for my last single family closing. I was like, I'm going to focus on us. We're going to get married, and we did. She was there, Starbucks in Chinatown, LA, last single family closing, and then we went and got married in Big Bear, and then in China, in Beijing. I was on a horse with a red suit and a dragon bow and arrow, and she was she was in a red dress, and we were on a procession and intercontinental. It was just insane, insane. It was like my wedding didn't even happen, and it was a really nice wedding in Big Bear, but I don't even remember that now. It's just so it was pretty amazing. And then we reapproached it and said, look, I can't do everything on my own. Got to learn to partner up. I had to begin to trust again because I had lied. I'd been embarrassed, and so we got married like 7 years ago. Yeah. Mhm. And then that's when we got into multi-family, and that's when we moved towards founded Best on Main Street syndicate, and then after that we got into some energy and got into, I have debt fund now, recessionary income fund, and then we have the acquisitions fund, recessionary acquisitions fund. So, which is now even in a little more than just, not office. I don't do any office, but we have branched out to retail, because some of the retail stuff is just, we're buying at 10 caps, amazing deals, and also a little bit of industrial. So we're just killing it right now in those two funds, both debt and equity, bringing. So that's kind of the evolution, how it all came about.
That's great. So in your phase two here, it sounds like you got some objective observation from your wife that confirmed that the way you were doing things really wasn't sustainable, burning a candle at multiple ends. How have you gone about this this chapter? You mentioned doing things, trusting people, starting a team. Do you have or did you go about that consciously, like partnering with people, having employees? Are these informal partnerships and networks just as needed, like legal and brokers and things like that? Or do you have a company structure with, I don't know, marketing officer and a investor communications and things like that? Or how is this time a little bit different than the first?
Yeah. So for example, in my organization, we have a combination of, the bookkeeping and accounting. We have the acquisitions analysts. We have marketing, director of marketing. We have investor relations. Then we have kind of kind of like the business overhead side, right? And then depending upon the deal, like on our recessionary income fund, I partnered with Lance Peterson, who co-founded Veravest and Fairway America, which is he's been doing debt funds since 2006. So he rode down the financial crisis. We've been friends for 6 years or so, and since I started, we've been looking for a way to do business. But I've been in acquisitions, and he's been in debt. And I said, hey, look, I want to do a debt fund, and we finally were able to pair. But I couldn't be more thankful for. I mean, this perfect partner to have. He actually co-founded a fund administration company which 20 billion in holdings, and he also was at Fairway, which has 500 million. It was an equity group that acquired 500 million. So he understands the debt and equity side very well. And so the recessionary income fund, the real estate asset-backed debt fund, we're not doing flipper loans or construction loans. We're doing performing cash flowing assets with loan to values, not loan to after repaired or loan to completed value, but loan to actual today value today, closer to 50, 60, 65%, which is in recession resilient markets, which even in the global financial crisis, most markets didn't drop that low. It's really hard to lose money. And because banks are pulling back, we're in a really strong position to be able to fill that void of performing assets, just needing reliable and trustworthy debt partners. And so really excited about Lance because he brings all of that background in the debt side, and we're building a really cool little mini empire here with our debt fund and debt platform, and PIM Rapid Lending is our originator. And then on the acquisitions fund side, we've got we've got all the people I just said, plus we've got Javier, who has been doing, call it small balance, medium sized commercial assets, but not just multifamily like I've been only. He's also got industrial, he's got retail, and he actually does have some office, although I don't do any office and don't want to do any office. But so he has just got an incredible track record of just picking out incredible deals. And very few people are scrappers like him that just get out there, talk to the owners, go direct to owner, and the whole acquisition system is direct to owner right now because the brokers have just been whispering these unreasonable prices for years. And so, we're incredible marketing engine picking out. And so he's just absolutely instrumental. He just got back from Missouri and Nebraska, like over the last couple of days, and just going through. And so he's just an incredible scrapper out there, filling the top of the funnel with deals. And then and we pulled two just incredible assets out of the like hundreds that we looked at so far and dozens that he's traveled to. And so I'm just so excited. And there's just complete and utter transparency on, on all sides, right? We all have access to the bank accounts. We all see all the financials. I have my underwriter looking at everything that he's his underwriter, and we're comparing, we're contrasting. It's just power and numbers, and and he's got just a great sense about things, and I can quantify it to more investor returns and fund level returns because we have a fund to fund structure. And so those are kind of really cool synergies. Like I have my superpowers and he has his superpowers, and we're just kind of working together, and we really like working together. I mean, we're having a lot of fun. So that's those are the two examples that most recent night line. And we have some other stuff we're doing this year, completely new stuff that fit our investment model, which is tax advantaged cash flow and recession resilient and non-correlated assets. So that's really what we're trying to do. Things that don't correlate to stock market. So we're building another channel this year that we're going to launch here in a couple months. Similar strategy. Got kind of a teaser on our website, but we're not telling people what it is yet.
Okay, This is great. Yeah, finding complementary partners can really turbocharge any business venture. I think even at the small scale, I think Lydia and I talk about it often that we complement one another just from our skill sets naturally, and it's amazing. But yeah, being in the real estate world, it is all about your network and your partnerships, and just getting out there and finding those people that really help and share your vision and values. If I recall correctly from our first conversation, and I guess what you've recounted here, you had a fairly quick ramp from. I don't know if you started in 2017 or exactly the year, but within a few years, have built up a tremendous business. How would you say? Because there's a lot of capital raisers, a lot of people that. Whoops, we're going to lose our camera here, I think. 1 second.
I do have a hard stop in 20 minutes.
Okay, great. Thanks for we meant to ask beforehand, but yeah, I would say so. From your start, how did you? There's a lot of capital raisers and syndicators out there that are trying to form a big presence in the market and scale into something substantial. What were your early days like? How did you go about getting started? Were you just going to physical networks, virtual networks? I think if I remember correctly, you publish a lot of content in various forms. I mean, did you have an overt strategy or something that you were going about building your investor base and going out and finding partners and business models?
I would not use the word overt to describe me,
Okay,
describe
yeah, fair.
myself. I actually, so the more me sitting here right now has been the result of personal journey that I've had to undergo, and even getting my name out there. And I have a book where I tell my whole story. I actually have two bestsellers right now, but this book, I actually tell my whole story if anybody's interested, and they go to my website, investonmainstreet.com or passiveinvestormastery.com/book, and we give it away for free. I'm right here. But I don't. It was in that book actually when I finally got my story out there, and it was Russell Gray, the real estate guys, that said, "Hey, you got to get out of your hobbit hole, Mr. Engineer, and you're doing cool things." But ultimately, I was behind scenes. I was doing my engineering thing, and I was just calculating by night again, and doing underwriting. And when I raised for our first deal, which is an 86 unit in um, in North Augusta, Brighton Place, I reached out to not family or friends. I reached out to colleagues essentially from my high tech space. People like founders and more all accredited investors. I've only ever done accredited investors in 100,000 minimums, and I just leveraged that network of these guys had invested millions of dollars in programs that I was either responsible for or involved in, which were much higher risk, development of new gizmos and gadgets. And so uh, I didn't. We had a website. We have a smart investing guide, which is still there today, the same one, and you can download it for free. And so we had kind of what you call like the lead magnet, but it was all the data and charts that I'm talking about of why not single family. Then I turned down an offer to join the Forbes Real Estate Council, and then after I did this book, I joined, and I've written a dozen articles, in Forbes, which have helped, and I've started doing podcasts, and I've got a second book, started getting on stages, but it wasn't until I was like 4 or 5 deals in that I ever did a podcast. So, I had just kind of been flying overnight out to do due diligence walks under cover of darkness, and kind of working with my my texting my buddies with it was but eventually you start to build momentum, and I finally got told, hey, you need to get your name out there. People will resonate with your story, and you should give back. People want to not be slave to their jobs all for their whole life. They want to see what alternative investment strategies can do and what they've done for you. And so that's when I kind of wrapped around and really kind of shifted my focus to kind of that give back. And so I get kind of energy. I'll go. In fact, I'll sometimes go to the library when I write Forbes articles. I'll just completely unplug because I just have to kind of get focused. But there's a whole different energy behind. Hey, if I was on the other side And what did I wish I knew before I got into my first single family deal, right? Well, I wrote articles on asset protection. What did I wish I knew on when I was selling single family? Well, 1031s. Well, I wrote articles on 1031s, and we have a whole guide on 1031 exchanges on my website. What about single family versus multifamily? I have whole articles in Forbes on single family versus multifamily. I just started writing on content that was me speaking to myself 5 years ago, right? 5 to 10 years ago, and um, that's I think that really resonated with various individuals, and it led to kind of me speaking on some stages around. I've done quite a bit of large stages at this point. So it just kind of stacked up, and eventually I came out. I've done, I don't know, 70 podcasts now. It just kind of snowballed, right? But that's kind of how things went. It wasn't necessarily. I didn't start out like here's big marketing front. No, it's just kind of me taking it almost as a startup standpoint, where I just kind of figured out some model, kind of shared it with some buddies, like let's make this work, and it looks like it's working. And then they kind of brought some more people, and then I kind of created, and then all of a sudden people started hearing about me, and then we kind of started ramping, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, an organic growth. I like the fact also that you lean into your own strengths, right? So the engineering mind of writing and doing things that are a little less public, and then coming into that publicity at your own pace and your own timing, and yeah, now to be speaking on stage. I mean, that's no easy. That's no easy feat. I remember my out of college, I got a job with Motorola at the time, which is aging me. But yeah, one of my tasks was to lead the factory meetings, and yeah, there were, I don't know, 100 people in the auditorium or in the cafeteria, and voice quivering, flop
Hmm.
sweat pouring down your face, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And now it's no big deal, right? I mean, I spoke at other factories with thousands of people and other things, but it's yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to at your own pace. Other people
Yeah.
very comfortable with stepping up and putting themselves out there.
It gets
But
easier. I what was a very challenging job was to be the Forbes editor when I wrote my first I wrote my first article, because it was just all engineering technical documents. and so and then the next one got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. But yeah, so I mean it over time, yeah.
less red marks
Mhm.
all over the document.
Yeah.
Patrick, going back a little bit of what you said about your partnership and your team members and the people that you work with, seems like you have a wonderful situation of wonderful partners, and you guys are successful. And do you mind giving us some tips on how to vet our partners? I'm sure there are so many people that have gone in partnerships in the past, and they have not gone well. And many people, like we know, even with multifamily, it's a team sport. So there are some things that you cannot do by yourself. So what are some tips that you give to people for vetting the partners that
Yeah,
you
sure.
want
Well,
to
we
get
do.
into a relationship with?
Yeah, sorry if I interrupt. There might be a little delay there, but absolutely. We kind of approached it as if, hey, we're going to start a fund where we're going to seek out institutional capital, and we're going to get audited. So we want to do all the steps that are going to be asked, all the questions that are going to be asked in advance. And we start out with the background checks, and we'll do the extra county by county, but each person will say, hey, is there anything that will come up in the background check? Please let us know now, which is very telling, and then we'll run it. And sometimes something comes up that you never know. I'm the boringest guy in the world, and unfortunately, I don't have any cool stories at all. Just side note, we one time got a ticket for drinking a beer on the beach in Hawaii, and unfortunately, that somehow disappeared. So I still don't even have that story to tell. But there's a lot of really interesting stories out there. But that's one of the things that's important to do, because you got to know, is there bankruptcies? What happened to me? I didn't know. And they, investors will ask, is there bank? Sometimes those things just pop up, and those things can be challenging. But you want to make sure to run that. Then we do a whole process of, really what is your alignment of interest? And I've been a believer that you really build partnerships through the crucible of getting stuff done. And because it was so interesting, as I mentioned, during COVID, we were in Hawaii, and I get a call, oh, we've got a deal, in Dallas, right? Can we fly out there? And I'm like, okay, I'll jump on the red eye, right? And I'll land in the morning, and then we'll walk the units in like less than 36 hours, right? And I would land, and we would be there, and then the people that lived in Dallas would show up like at 1 or 2 p.m. that day, and I was there at like 7, And so it's not about where you are, it's about how committed you are. And then we would get back, and it takes weeks to get the report. It takes weeks to get the information, and then when it actually comes down to it, you find that people are kind of buying into this. Well, this is going to be easier than my job. Well, no, it's not. It's going to be harder, right? And this is new. It's going to stretch you. It can become challenging. And so, with everybody that I've partnered with, I've either seen and watched closely for years, or I've actually worked on deals with them, or I personally know people that have worked on deals with them, and I get a sense of who they are in the crucible of things getting challenging and not going well. And a lot of the times what I find is like in these kind of guru spaces, people like huddling together. And I got asked this a lot. Hey, do you want to be in we're going to do a bunch of deals together. And I'm like, I don't know. Let's underwrite a deal together. It's my question, right? Let's go look at a deal together. Is my question. Meanwhile, they want to put together a contract of who's doing what and who gets what GP or partnership, and then those, and ultimately it all falls apart, right? They don't ever get anywhere because they're so worried about structuring and partnership. And me, more naturally, I just rather start underwriting deals and do work together and see who fits and does what. And because anyway, the average major change in the California state schools 3 times, right? I was one. I went from computer engineering to electrical engineering to mechanical engineering, right? How's that any different than somebody saying, "Oh, I want to become a real estate investor"? You don't know until you got to start doing and being these things, right? On how you're going to align what you like doing, and you're going to take away, if you got a job, from time away from your family, friends, and hobbies to do this other thing. Well, that better be. Don't do what I did in single family. Try and do all the things you like and don't like doing. It better be the stuff you like doing. You better find something you're a superpower in doing. So I just jump in there and start doing things. Find something that's a natural fit for you, and then start doing those things with other people and figure out those people where they're a natural fit, and then make sure they're in alignment with the long-term objectives, and get some time under the belt with those people before you partner with them, right? So that was
Yeah, really important.
Mhm.
Yeah, really important. I mean, we've learned a very similar lesson, especially in the multifamily space. I get approached very regularly to join deals or see if I can participate, and a lot of times it's from people that I don't even know. And I just straight up tell them, look, I'm not. It's not going to work on this deal because there's just not enough time. I mean, I'm happy to start engaging on the side, and we can get to know one another and do things. But yeah, just rushing into and this is the temptation with people that get started in a new, okay, let's say you want to be a syndicator or you want to be a capital raiser, right? You're hungry to get on a deal and do these things. That the tendency or the inclination can be to overlook or to shortcut a process, and then you're in a partnership with people you don't even know,
Right.
and it does take time. To your point, you have to go through ups and downs to understand really what somebody's personality is and how they're going to act in certain situations. It's easy to put on, at a networking event and shake your head, nod your head, whatever, and say, yeah, I like doing this and that. But until you see it, is somebody going to show up on time? Are they actually going to read the reports? Are they going to understand the reports? Are they, it's not something that you can do in a weekend and shake hands. I mean, sometimes it works out and it might be, but it's happenstance rather than going through and doing something. So yeah, really important advice, I think, and a great question, because it is something that everybody faces in this industry, especially.
And it's not a perfect science, and I certainly haven't made all perfect choices before, but you do the best you can, and you stick it out, because you might be the one left holding the bag if you didn't make the right choice. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Really critical. Well, we want to be respectful of your time. I know you've got a hard stop coming up here shortly. Maybe we can just wrap up with anybody that is interested to hear more about what you've got going on, or will have in the near future as you've teached. What's the best way to get in touch with you and plug into your network?
Yeah, so passive investing mastery, passiveinvestingmastery.com, all spelled out. And if you go to passiveinvestingmastery/book, we'll give you a free signed copy. We ship it for free of our, best-selling book, Persistence, Pivots, and Game Changers: Turning Challenges and Opportunities. I love this book. It's the reason why I give it away. Not because I'm in it, but because like Phil Collins, lead guitarist at Def Leppard, NFL, NBA players and coaches. I mean, there's just a lot of really cool stories in here. This is a really fun book to do, but I do tell my story. But anyways, there's that. We have two investments: the Recessionary Acquisitions Fund, where we're taking down incredible assets right now, and really great basis is really the very unique buying time, second best buying time of my life. Just drug over the coals on the first one, but I'm pouncing on the second one. And then, yeah, and then we have the income fund, which is a real estate asset-backed debt fund, which is really cool because it's not like a flipper, it's not a construction. This is cash flowing, income producing, steady eddy, predictable cash flow. We have short term, 90 days, half year, or 3 year. So you can really a lot of flexibility on your lockup period. So really cool stuff there. So if you're interested in any of those, love to chat. We also have my calendars, and one of the things I love to do is talk to investors. So regardless of where you're at, even if you're not an accredited investor you can meet our 100,000 minimum, happy to talk to you. I've got a bunch of content. I know a bunch of people, and I can get you pointed in the right direction for where you're at. So please feel welcome to just set up a meeting. My calendar's right there on our website. Love to chat to anybody wherever they're at in their journey.
Okay. And both your funds, the calendar, and obviously the book are at the website. You mentioned passiveinvestormastery.com.
Mm-hmm. And we have a mastery series, which you can jump in there, and every couple weeks or almost every week now, we have different managers, fund managers, investors talking about all the different kinds of investments out there. We've had ATM people, laundry people, we've had self-storage, we have a mobile home park coming up. We've had all kinds of people talking about all the different ways you can invest in passive investments with real deals, real action takers, no fakers. And we just get on there and debate and talk about all kinds of stuff. And I think it's really fun. It's usually a really great 45-minute with a really solid Q&A on the back end. And so that's part of us just giving back, just trying to grow the blue ocean space of knowledge on the alternative investment strategies that you can take on, and introducing you to some of the people out there which we really respect here. So if you want to jump in and register for that, it's just our way to kind of give back to the community.
That's beautiful. Yeah, those are all great initiatives. Highly encouraged, especially in real estate. Just getting as much education as possible is invaluable. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on again and being a repeat guest. This was fascinating, inspiring, and we wish you all the best. And if we can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to let us know. But
Same here.
Thanks again.
It's a wonderful time. Once again, thank you so much.
All right, man. Take care. Bye-bye.
For those of you joining us today, we hope you enjoyed this time in the Champions Corner as much as we did. Got some awesome takeaways, and most importantly, will take action to continue living your best life and maximizing your potential. Mindset is such an important aspect of life, and when coupled with action, delivers undeniably powerful results.
Please subscribe to the podcast to hear from more great guests and get the latest mindset mastery insights and cash flow matchups.
Again, thank you so much for investing your time with us, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Cash Flow Fight Club podcast.